back with another update because once again there's another hurricane headed towards the United States, but luckily it's only expected to reach a Category 1. There are some people that are saying it's supposed to reach Category 2, but I seriously doubt it. But there is a lot of convection going on in this cyclone. There's not a really defined eye right at the moment. It's trying to form, but it looks like it's moving too fast for it to actually form a decent eye. But I'm going to go ahead and read off the discussion for the forecast, and that's updated at 11 a.m., so about an hour and a half ago. It says NATE is showing improved organization in satellite imagery this morning with the formation of a symmetric central dense overcast with cloud tops colder than negative 80 degrees Celsius. In addition, Air Force Reserve and NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft have reported a central pressure near 984 millibars inside a 25 nautical mile wide eye that is starting to form under the overcast. So I guess as of 11 a.m., or no, this says 10 a.m., so it's 2.5 hours ago. It is starting to form an eye now. Says conditions appear favorable for NATE to continue strengthening for the next 12 hours or so before it encounters land and increases shear. The new intensity forecast thus follows the ship's model and showing NATE become a Category 2 hurricane before landfall on the central Gulf Coast. Okay, so this discussion now is saying that it's going to reach a Category 2 hurricane before it makes landfall on the central Gulf Coast. After landfall, NATE should weaken rapidly as it moves through the eastern United States. The cyclone is now forecast to become extratropical near the 72-hour point and dissipate completely by 96 hours. But 96 hours is a long time for it to be dumping water and all that rain over the land. The initial motion is toward the north-northwest at a very rapid 23 knots. The hurricane is being steered by the flow between a large cyclonic gyre over the southwestern Gulf of Mexico and a mid-level ridge over the western Atlantic. In addition, a mid-latitude trough in the westerlies is moving eastward through the central United States. This pattern is expected to cause NATE to turn northward during the next 12 to 18 hours as it rounds the western end of the ridge, followed by a turn toward the northeast. As it enters the westerlies, the new forecast track is nudged a little to the left of the previous track, and it lies near the center of the tightly clustered guidance. So it's going to be slightly to the left of most of the spaghetti models, the average. NATE is expected to bring life-threatening storm surge flooding near and well east of where the central makes landfall, and a storm surge warning is in effect from Morgan City, Louisiana, to Okaloosa, Walton County line in Florida. Maximum flooding of 7 to 11 feet above ground level is expected in portions of southeastern Louisiana and along the Mississippi coast. And that is almost equivalent to what was going on in Florida during that last major hurricane. There was like 9 to 12 or 9 to 15 foot storm surge. NATE is forecast to reach Category 2 intensity before landfall. A hurricane warning is in effect for portions of the northern Gulf Coast from Louisiana to Alabama, with the strongest winds expected to occur primarily to the east of the center. Preparations to protect life and property should be rushed to completion in these areas, as tropical storm conditions will first arrive in the warning areas this afternoon. And you can see right there that little area that's kind of dissipated, or is going to dissipate in about an hour. It looks like they're already starting to get some rain and some wind effects, some tropical storm winds. NATE's fast forward speed after landfall will bring tropical storm force winds well inland across portions of the southeastern U.S. Tropical storm watches and warnings are in effect for portions of southeastern Mississippi, Alabama, and western Georgia. It will bring heavy rainfall of 3 to 6 inches with isolated totals of 10 inches east of the Mississippi River from the central Gulf Coast into the deep south, eastern Tennessee Valley, and southern Appalachians through Monday resulting in the potential for flash flooding in these areas. Moisture from Nate interacting with the frontal zone will also bring 2 to 4 inches of rain, with isolated totals of 6 inches across the Ohio Valley and Central Appalachians Sunday and Monday, which will increase the risk of flash flooding across those locations. I'm going to bring up the infrared loop here real quick. You kind of see a little bit more of the moisture, the actual rain in this storm right here. And it's not a very large storm. I mean, it's still going to be a category 2, but I'm going to look up the wind speeds real quick and see max forecast positions and max winds in 12 hours, about the time that it will be making landfall. You can expect 105 mile per hour winds, or 90 knots. 24 hours, it'll be inland. It will start to dissipate, going down to 70 miles per hour, all the way up to 72 hours. It will finally be down to 30 miles per hour and be a post-tropical, and 96 hours will be totally dissipated. But that's not the only thing that we need to look for, because I'm going to go back to the water vapor loop, and you look out here over the Atlantic, and you see that right there. This area has been trying to form another cyclone. I mean, I would consider this a cyclone right here, but it's been trying to form another big hurricane for about a week now. And I posted another video about 5 days ago, I think it was, and I showed 3 areas of rotation, and this area was one of them. It was slightly southwest of this area, but there was that area, there was another area that is what now is Nate. And 5 days ago, this area, I've been tracking it, was around this area near Puerto Rico, about southwest of it, and it followed this trajectory. It came down here, the winds pushed it down here to this coast, Central America, and then it started pushing it back up northeast. So this is what I've been tracking since last week. It started down here is when it started to rotate. There was a low pressure trough that came in, and there was 2 high pressure ridges to each side of it, and it just started to cause it to rotate. But once it got down here and it kind of interacted with the land, it started to dissipate a little bit. But once it got inside this little area right here, this little bay, I don't know what bay that is, but it started to rotate, because usually if there's a wind shear like there was coming from those islands up there, like it's still kind of doing now, it's going from the islands to a southwestern direction, but then you have down here the wind that's coming from the other side of that land bridge there, Central America. It was going from the Pacific, across towards these islands up here, and it was causing it to rotate, and that's what actually started it to rotate even more. Once it started to go up into the Gulf, it gained intensity because of the warmer waters. But yeah, there's another area right here. I don't know if it's on the homepage yet, but this looks like it could form into something. There's a lot of convection going on. Right there at the last few frames, you kind of see some of it dissipate, but this little area right here seems like it's a little bit more persistent, tenacious. So that's something to look out for, because it's this swath from Nate is actually creating an area of lower pressure, and is starting to bring this kind of down in that same trajectory that Nate was on. So that's something to watch out for too. But this is definitely an area to watch out for. I mean, it's pretty much stationary since yesterday, and that's usually what happens with a larger area of moisture that is rotating. It's because there's so much more mass. It's harder for it to travel in a further trajectory, but there's not a lot of moisture in it yet. But right now, since it's starting to rotate a lot more, it's going to draw in all the moisture around it, and you can see that it's actually drawing in some of the water vapor from down here in these storm clouds. It's sucking it up. So that's something to watch out for. I'm going to look at the homepage real quick and see if there actually is an X out there in the middle. Oh, and what do you know? Yes, there is. Let's look at it. Non-tropical area of low pressure is located about 700 miles southwest of the Azores. This system is beginning to acquire subtropical characteristics, and environmental conditions are expected to be conducive for the development of a tropical or subtropical cyclone during the next day or so while the low drifts toward the southwest. Thereafter, the atmosphere is expected to become hostile for the further development. So yeah, within the next 5 days, there's a high 70% chance that is going to turn into a tropical cyclone or a subtropical cyclone. And there it is on the infrared image. And bring it up on the visible light spectrum. So yeah, there is a large area of rotation out there, and I cannot pull up a GIF, a loop of anything north of here for some reason. I'm on a phone. If I was on a computer, I can pull it up because it's flash. If you go back and look, it'll show you the areas that you can look at. And once you get down here, northwest Atlantic, it becomes you need a flash player. Then you can use the HTML5, but I don't have that right now, so kind of limited to what I can show. But I mean, it's a wide view of the Atlantic, so I mean, you can see everything that is basically going to affect us. So definitely watch out for these 3 areas. Definitely May it's going to make landfall in the next 12 hours, they're saying, and with the speed that it's traveling, who's to say it could be less than that, maybe 10 hours. And this area right here that's being drawn down to southwest over these islands, that's something to look out for in the next 5 days. I guarantee if this persists and all this moisture stays together as it moves over these islands, if those islands don't dissipate some of that the water that's collected, I guarantee it's going to reach the same area. And if the winds on either side, north and south, are the same direction, same conditions, it will turn into another hurricane, just like Nate. And then this one, just have to keep watching out. It looks like there's a ridge coming from the south going northeast, and if I can see what was going on, it looks like there's an area of low pressure that's pushing in northwest of this depression out here. I don't know. We'll just have to wait. It looks like it's going to start to move south, maybe southeast, for the next day or two, and then it will start to move south and then southwest. And eventually, once it goes down that far, it's going to start pushing more easterly and following the same track that Jose and all of them have followed. And if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I do new updates, because